The palace has finally spoken. Princess Catherine is facing a serious health battle, and the truth is more emotional than anyone imagined. After months of silence, speculation, and worry, the heartbreaking update has shaken the nation. This isn't just about royalty, it's about a woman fighting for her health and peace. The silence that started it all. It began so quietly, most people didn't notice. One day, Princess Catherine was smiling at a children's literacy event. The next, she was gone from the royal schedule. No explanation, no gradual step back. Her name vanished, replaced only by the phrase, "private engagements." Then came a single-line statement from Kensington Palace. The princess is undertaking a period of rest. No reason given, no time frame. And inside the palace, the atmosphere changed. Staff meetings were cancelled, schedules cleared. Insiders described the mood as unusually tense, with senior aides suddenly left out of the loop. One even whispered, "I've never seen the curtain drawn this tight before." Catherine wasn't just resting. She was gone, and no one knew why. Weeks passed. No photo, no update. Royal watchers grew uneasy, sensing something serious behind the silence. The carefully managed image of the princess had vanished, replaced by a void that felt both ominous and deliberate. What was once assumed to be a short pause quickly became one of the most mysterious absences in modern royal history. Rumors take over, a public desperate for answers. By March, the patience of the press and the public had snapped. Catherine's continued absence was no longer just odd, it was alarming. The media, once respectful of privacy, began demanding answers. And with no answers from the palace, rumors took over. Tabloids ran wild. Front pages screamed with speculation, secret surgery, marital collapse, even royal exile. One headline read, "Day 42, still no sign of Catherine." Social media went into chaos. Hashtags like #WhereIsKate and #FindPrincessCatherine started trending globally. TikTok users posted conspiracy theories hourly, analyzing past photos for signs of illness or distress. Even Catherine's children's school runs were falsely reported, sparking more confusion. Prince William, asked about her in a solo engagement, gave only one line, "She's recovering." But it didn't help. His expression was tight, his tone distant. Viewers could feel the strain. Instead of easing tension, it fueled more fear. Palace insiders were now overwhelmed by the noise, unsure whether to stick with tradition or break protocol. Behind closed doors, staff debated. Is it time to speak out? Or will the truth only make things worse? Because by now, it was clear, this wasn't just a rest period. Something much deeper was unfolding. Next, what Catherine was really facing behind palace walls, and the medical truth that changed everything. The hidden truth behind palace walls. While the public drowned in rumors, the truth behind the stone walls of Kensington Palace was far more painful and far more private. Out of sight from the cameras, Princess Catherine was fighting a deeply personal medical battle, a condition so serious, so consuming, that it brought even the most resilient royal to a standstill. The whispers online were relentless, but they couldn't touch what was really happening inside. Behind the gilded doors, in a room dimmed for peace and silence, Catherine lay resting, not from scandal, but from sheer survival. Her doctors had drawn a clear line. "If you don't stop now," they warned, "your body will make the decision for you." The words hit harder than any headline. Catherine wasn't just tired, she was depleted. For over a decade, she had pushed herself far beyond limits. Morning sickness so extreme during pregnancies that hospital stays became routine. Migraines that would leave her sensitive to light and sound. Yet she still showed up to charity events, ribbon cuttings, school visits, and royal galas. Always smiling, always composed, never missing a step. But now, even standing was difficult, even smiling took effort. And for a woman whose identity had been built around presence and duty, being told to disappear was not just a health order, it was an emotional unraveling. The diagnosis, still undisclosed publicly to protect her privacy, required complete withdrawal from the public eye. No events, no cameras, no engagements, not even palace meetings. Just rest. Real, uninterrupted rest. And for Catherine, the hardest part wasn't the pain. It was the pause. During a late-night phone call with her sister Pippa, she reportedly whispered through tears, "It feels like learning to breathe underwater. I don't know who I am without the schedule." She felt lost, stripped of control, because for someone like her, disciplined, thoughtful, prepared, the loss of rhythm, of routine, was terrifying. Being still wasn't something she knew how to do. Inside the palace, even senior aides were kept at arm's length. A tight circle, William, her doctors, Carol and Michael Middleton, and a trusted nurse were the only ones allowed in. The rest of the royal household operated on silence. Emails were returned with vague replies. Calendars were cleared. Staff were told simply, "The princess is not available." And that was all they got. It wasn't about scandal. It wasn't about drama. It wasn't about tabloid whispers or marital conspiracies. It was about one woman, overwhelmed by years of physical strain, emotional weight, and relentless expectations, finally hitting the wall. And in that moment, for the first time in her royal life, Princess Catherine had to choose herself. Not the crown, not the cameras, not even the causes she loved so deeply. Just herself, because if she didn't, she might not make it back. Coming up next, William's private battle with guilt, anger, and the heavy shadow of his mother's past. William's private battle with guilt and fury. While Catherine struggled in silence, Prince William carried a very different burden. One made of guilt, helplessness, and mounting fury. Behind the palace gates, far from the headlines and hashtags, he was a man torn between love and duty, between his family's privacy and the public's ever-hungry gaze. Watching his wife fade, physically and emotionally, shattered him. She was no longer the vibrant woman who danced with their children in the kitchen, who smiled through royal receptions, who stood by his side at every state visit. She was quiet now, distant. Her once steady presence replaced with silence and shadows. But what nearly broke him wasn't just her suffering. It was the world's reaction to it. As the weeks dragged on without updates, the internet ignited. Rumors, fake photos, edited videos, wild theories. The noise was deafening. Strangers mocked her absence. Reporters speculated without evidence. Private medical files, fabricated, began to circulate. And through it all, William stayed silent. Because that's what the crown demanded. But inside, he was boiling. "I should have spoken up sooner," he confided to a close friend. "I thought I was protecting her. But now, I'm not sure." The ghost of his mother haunted him. Princess Diana, hounded by flash bulbs and headlines, had endured her own private battles beneath public scrutiny. William remembered the tears, the hollow look in her eyes, the way she once told him, "They don't want the truth. They want a show. And now, it felt like history was repeating itself. Only this time, it was Catherine paying the price. Behind palace doors, William's fury was constant. He snapped at staff. Meetings turned tense. One senior aide reportedly left a conversation in tears after William slammed his hand on the table, saying, "We're letting her suffer in silence while they eat her alive." But it wasn't just anger he wrestled with. It was guilt. Catherine felt like she was failing her charities, failing the public, worse, failing their children. She hated not being able to read to them at night, not being there for school pickups or bedtime chats. The guilt gnawed at her, and William could see it. Every time she looked away, every time she tried to force a smile. And still, the headlines rolled on. But William remained firm. As Catherine sat in their private drawing room one afternoon, crying quietly, he took her hand and said the words she needed to hear. "You don't owe them your health. You owe yourself the time to heal. That's it." He meant every word, but it didn't make the pain easier. Because William, trained to lead, raised to endure, was now facing a problem he couldn't fix with duty or discipline. The woman he loved most was breaking, and he couldn't stop it. He had always known that royalty came with a price, but he never imagined it would cost Catherine's peace. Now, as drones hovered over palace rooftops and tabloids printed lies faster than the truth could catch up, William knew the silence had become too loud, and it was about to crack. Next, the breaking point, when privacy turns into a crisis, and why William finally said, "Enough." The pressure mounts when privacy turns into a crisis. As weeks turned to months, the silence that once protected Princess Catherine began to collapse in on itself. What was once a decision for health became a public spectacle. And behind palace gates, even the most senior aides knew. Something had to give. Photographers camped outside royal estates, using drones to circle Adelaide Cottage and Kensington Palace. Security tightened, but even that couldn't keep out the noise. One morning, a fake medical report surfaced online. It trended globally within hours. Even major outlets hesitated. Was it real? It wasn't. But the damage was done. Inside Buckingham Palace, tensions boiled over. King Charles, already weakened by his own illness, reportedly summoned his son and top advisors for a private meeting. "The imagination of the public is now worse than the truth," he told them gravely. "This cannot continue." The monarchy has always walked a fine line between privacy and duty, but now it was being pushed to the edge. Conversations grew tense. Some feared that sharing the truth would expose too much. Others argued the silence had already done more harm than good. William snapped first. His voice raised in a meeting, fists clenched on the table. "Enough," he said. "We're not feeding gossip. We're telling the truth." Even Catherine, in one of her rare lucid moments, nodded quietly. She didn't want pity. She didn't want attention. She just wanted the world to stop tearing her apart without knowing the real story. But how do you tell a nation something so personal without breaking the person behind it? That question haunted everyone in the room as they agreed. It was time to release a photo. A moment of calm. Something that showed Catherine was still here, even if she wasn't ready to speak. But even that came with a cost. The first glimpse, a carefully constructed photo. It was released quietly, April 5th, 6:02 p.m., no press conference, no headlines prearranged, Just a single photo posted on the official Prince and Princess of Wales Instagram account. In it, Princess Catherine sat on a bench in Kensington Gardens, dressed in jeans and a soft cream sweater. Her hair was loosely tied back. She wasn't looking at the camera. Her hands were folded in her lap. And behind her, soft spring blooms barely opened. William had taken the photo himself. He later admitted it was the only one she had agreed to. Out of more than a dozen attempts, this was the only moment she felt okay being seen. The response was instant and divided. Many praised her strength, her dignity. Others accused the palace of staging a distraction. The photo was picked apart online. Her weight, her expression, her posture, even the color of the sky behind her. Every pixel became a clue, a headline, a new round of speculation. "I'm not a zoo animal," Catherine had whispered after seeing the final post. "But maybe they need to see I'm still here." That line stuck with aides, because the photo wasn't a comeback. It was a lifeline, a small signal to a world that had forgotten she was human, that she had lost weight, lost energy, lost peace, but not herself. Behind the camera, William stood frozen, torn between relief and dread. He had tried to shield her, but he knew this image wouldn't silence the world. It would only make it hungrier. Still, the photo did something unexpected. It reminded people that the crown is made of people, not myths, not icons, but real, fragile, healing people. Next, the powerful, handwritten statement that finally shattered the silence. The statement that changed everything. At 6 p.m. on a Wednesday evening, while most of the nation was having dinner, the official accounts of Kensington Palace posted something the world didn't expect. A personal statement signed by Catherine herself. No fanfare, no press conference, just quiet truth. Over the past several months, I have been undergoing treatment for a serious health condition that required me to step away completely. My family and I needed time to process, to heal, and to hold on to each other without the noise. The words were soft but unshakable. No blame, no drama, just raw honesty. She spoke as a woman first, royal second. "I know many of you have been concerned. I want to thank you. Your patience has been as essential as any medicine." And then came the line that stopped everyone in their tracks. "I may never be the person I was before, but I'm learning to be someone new." In a world where royals are trained to maintain the illusion of perfection, this was a direct hit to the heart. It wasn't a press release, it was a confession. The reaction was immediate. The hashtag #privacy. For Catherine exploded within minutes. Messages of support poured in from around the globe, from politicians, from celebrities, from everyday people. Even European royal houses reposted the statement in solidarity. Inside the palace, a wave of relief swept through the staff. The pressure, the secrecy, the quiet guilt. It had finally broken. And in its place, compassion stepped in. For the first time in months, Catherine's silence wasn't judged. It was understood. But perhaps most touching were the reactions from those closest to her. Prince William, in private, reportedly said, "I've never been prouder of her." That's the kind of courage they don't teach in training. King Charles, who had been quietly battling his own illness, told aides she had reminded the world what true service looks like. Not by waving from a balcony, but by telling the truth when it costs you everything. And Queen Camilla, often guarded, was overheard telling staff, "She's always been strong." Now they finally see it. For Catherine, the statement was more than a press release. It was the beginning of her recovery in public. She knew the world would still watch, still guess, still judge. But now, they'd have to do it with the truth in their hands. And that truth, that strength can look like stepping back instead of stepping up, changed the narrative completely. Next, how healing began behind palace walls, and how Catherine's quiet return sparked a revolution inside the monarchy.
Recovery begins, and so does a revolution.
With the world finally given clarity, something inside Kensington Palace shifted. The mood was lighter. The tension that had gripped the halls for months loosened. And for the first time in what felt like forever, hope returned. Catherine's recovery wasn't dramatic. It didn't involve glamorous reappearances or grand statements. It began quietly, just as her absence had. A short walk in the garden, reading stories to George, Charlotte, and Louis, helping prepare a family meal, sitting in the sunlight for more than 10 minutes without feeling dizzy. These weren't headlines. They were victories. Inside the household, staff began to smile again. Meetings resumed slowly. Schedules were reviewed, but the tone had changed forever. Catherine had made it clear, "I will return, but never at the expense of my peace." She and William began reshaping their calendar. No more back-to-back appearances, no more grueling travel, no more obligations that pulled them away from each other or the children. It was about presence over protocol, family over formality. "We're choosing quality over quantity," Catherine told one aide. "If I'm somewhere, I want to truly be there." This mindset trickled through the entire royal operation. Mental health check-ins became more regular. Staff were encouraged to take breaks. The palace began reviewing engagement policies, not just for Catherine, but for everyone. Even King Charles reportedly agreed to a lighter workload, inspired by Catherine's clarity. One insider said, "She's quietly reshaping the royal rhythm." And everyone's realizing it actually works. But perhaps the most powerful change was personal. Catherine, once the face of composure, began showing vulnerability. She allowed herself to cry, to rest, to say no. These small shifts echoed louder than any public speech. Her children, too, were part of this transformation. Louis, who had sensed more than he understood, was now helping in little ways, bringing flowers to her bedside, drawing healing pictures. Charlotte became her little helper, reading aloud from their favorite books. George, always observant, told William one evening, "Mummy laughs more now." That moment was priceless, because recovery wasn't just about medicine. It was about finding pieces of joy and putting them back together again. From a woman who once carried royal duty on her shoulders daily, Catherine had now become a quiet symbol of balance, healing, and transformation. And in doing so, she didn't just recover. She changed the monarchy itself. Next, her return to public life, and the moment she reminded the world who she really is. Catherine's return, quiet but powerful. Her comeback didn't come with trumpets or red carpets. There was no palace fanfare, no royal press pool. Just a soft morning in July, at a small children's charity in Norfolk, where Princess Catherine stepped out for the first time in months. Thin, careful, but radiant. The cameras were invited but instructed to keep their distance. No shouted questions, no flashes. Just quiet observation. The moment wasn't about press. It was about presence. Catherine wore a pale blue dress, the same one she'd worn on a hospital visit years earlier, a quiet nod to the journey she'd taken. Her walk was steady but slow. Her smile, genuine, if a little fragile. But what struck everyone was her eyes, calm, kind, and full of clarity. Inside the venue, she read books to a group of children, sat on the floor, laughed softly. One little girl reached out to touch her hand, and Catherine squeezed it gently, saying, "Thank you. That's the best medicine I've had in a while." William didn't attend. He stayed home with the children. This was Catherine's moment, her choice, her pace. And though she stayed less than an hour, her message rang louder than any royal gala ever could. The media, for once, took the hint. Coverage was gentle. Even the tabloids softened their tone. Words like brave, graceful, and resilient replaced the gossip of months prior. She hadn't just survived the storm, she had walked out of it stronger. King Charles, still navigating his own health battle, was reportedly moved to tears watching the news clip. "She's stronger than all of us," he told aides. Camilla, often described as reserved toward emotional matters, made a quiet but powerful statement. She always has been. Inside the monarchy, something clicked. Catherine had done what few royals dared. She disappeared without apology, healed without spectacle, and returned on her terms. And by doing that, she didn't just restore public faith, she redefined royal resilience. Strength, one palace insider said, doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just shows up quietly and smiles. Next, how Catherine's journey rewrote the rules and what it means for the future of the royal family. A monarchy forever changed. When Catherine returned, she wasn't just Princess of Wales. She became something more powerful than a title. She was now the face of a new royal philosophy, one rooted in honesty, self-preservation, and purpose. And whether the firm planned for it or not, the monarchy was already shifting. Her video message, released weeks after her first reappearance, proved it. In it, she spoke directly to camera, calm, centered, and clear. "Taking care of yourself," she said, "is not selfish. It's necessary. I broke, and then I healed. And the healing happened because of the breaking." That single line went viral. Over 50 million views in 24 hours. Not because she cried, not because she shared medical charts, but because she told the truth, and people believed her. It was a mic-drop moment for the monarchy. For decades, royals were trained to hide pain, mask illness, and smile through suffering. But Catherine had rewritten the script. And in doing so, she gave the institution a way forward. Palace policy changed within weeks. Health transparency protocols were quietly updated. Engagement workloads for all senior royals were reviewed. Even aides were given mental health support plans, a first in royal history. Across Europe, the ripple effect was immediate. The Dutch royal house released a new wellness initiative. Spain's Queen Letizia praised Catherine's example publicly, calling it a rare blend of strength and humility. And inside Britain, something even more profound happened. People began to relate to their future queen, not revere her. Catherine wasn't a distant icon anymore. She was a mother, a wife, a woman who got sick, got quiet, and came back better. This emotional connection became William and Catherine's greatest power. It wasn't about photo ops or balcony waves anymore. It was about presence, honesty, and compassion. The monarchy didn't lose its mystery, but it finally found its heart. As one royal correspondent wrote, "They didn't need a crown to lead. They needed each other." And perhaps that's the legacy this moment will leave behind. Not just that Princess Catherine healed, but that she helped heal the monarchy too. one quiet day at a time. As the world now understands the full weight of what Catherine has endured, support is pouring in like never before. Her courage in vulnerability has redefined what strength looks like. The silence is over, but the journey of healing continues. And one thing is certain: Catherine's story has changed everything.